Some breaking news tonight here on the Hill. The first execution by firing squad scheduled at this hour in 15 years. It'll be the first time that happens. 67-year-old Brad Sigmon facing the death penalty for the murder of his ex-girlfriend's parents in 2001. Our Alex Caprariello was outside the Broad River Road Correctional Facility in Columbia, South Carolina. Alex, this is the first time, I believe, that they've ever done this by firing squad in South Carolina. The first time in 15 years in this country. I think most people would listen to this and say, by firing squad, that happens? Yes, it happens, and here we are.
Yeah, it is still very much something that people are still coming to grips with, the fact that this is a way for capital punishment to be actually handled out. You're right, historic in the sense of South Carolina, the first time in America in about 15 years. From what we know, this execution has been carried out. We did know that the Supreme Court of the United States denied that motion for a stay. I just learned that NewsNation has independently confirmed that the governor denied clemency, which was sort of the last-ditch effort to try to prevent this execution from happening. We're still waiting on those 3 witnesses that are part of the media that are actually there to see it all unfold. They're going to take a podium right here to the right of me very shortly to sort of describe exactly how it went down. But in the meantime, I can sort of fill in the gaps based on what we've learned from the Department of Corrections. First and foremost, we knew that the last words from Brad Sigmon were delivered to his attorney. He read them out loud to the witnesses so that way they could hear. A part of those witnesses were some of the family members of the victims that were involved. We also know that Sigmon was brought into a chamber. There was a hood that was placed over his head, and then 3 marksmen from 15 feet away fired rifles directly at his heart. We know that it would have been most likely instantaneous death from the impact of those bullets coming to his chest. From what it's worth, Sigmon actually chose this method as execution instead of the electric chair or lethal injection. It goes down in history as the first of a firing squad in 15 years since Utah. I spoke to the brother of the last man, Ronnie Lee Gardner. He told me that it is still living rent-free in his mind. Take a listen.
What do you say to your opponents who say an eye for an eye?
Makes the world go blind, you know. It don't make sense. It's the same thing. Why do we kill people who kill people that show that killing is wrong? To me, it's a real moral issue, and I think it should be for everybody. Why would someone want to kill somebody else?
There are 6 more executions planned over the next 3 weeks. That includes in Texas, Oklahoma, Louisiana, and Florida. NewsNation will be covering those, including the one in Louisiana, which would actually be using nitrogen gas and is a sort of suffocation method. Obviously, a lot of these are under very close scrutiny, including right here in South Carolina. A lot of protesters lined up outside this prison in protest of what's happening inside. Obviously, we're waiting for this press conference to begin. We'll bring it to you as soon as we can.
Yep, expected to happen here at some point later this hour, and when that happens, we will show it to you live. Alex Caprariello in Columbia, South Carolina tonight. Alex, thank you. Joining me now, Scott Bolden, NewsNation contributor, legal analyst as well. Hello, Scott. Good evening.
How are you?
Of all the things we could be talking about on a Friday night, I didn't think it would be this one, but here we are. First time in 15 years. This, though, is the end, Scott, of a very long legal and legislative process.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, every state can give a prisoner on death row an option, if you will. In this particular case in South Carolina, there were at least 3 appeals to the Supreme Court that were delayed because the lethal injection part that's an option, the chemicals, access to those chemicals for a lot of states is just difficult for them to get. And this death row inmate chose the firing squad versus the lethal injection that could take 20 minutes or so, or the electric chair that could have many different difficulties as well.
Right.
So this was his choice. It's an option under South Carolina law. And there's 7 other states where firing squads is an option if they so choose.
Governor denied clemency today. This also went, I think, a last-minute appeal before the Supreme Court today as well, which they declined to take up.
Absolutely, you always have that last-minute option. You have the Attorney General on the phone, buy a hot phone, if you will.
Really?
If the governor is going to call at the last minute, or if the Supreme Court decision, they used to have fax machines when I was a prosecutor that would fax yes or no, and it's that simple, including when the person is in the chair, when the person is getting an injection.
All right, it's a wild story out of South Carolina. Expecting an update here momentarily. Thank you for watching, and make sure you go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider.
And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.